February 4th of this year, we had a 17-year-old girl and we had an 18-year-old boy. And what they wanted was to be an adult. They wanted to be grown up. What they found out very quick after that is sometimes it's best not to get what you want, because they realized that they weren't prepared to be adults at that point. One of the things I want y'all to do when you go back there and you go over all the text messages and Instagram messages and all those messages is look, I'm not saying that it was right, but they hated her. They absolutely hated her, and they hated living with her. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say that she was a bad person. I don't mean that at all. She's obviously a good person. She took in her 17-year-old, much younger than that, daughter. But Tara obviously had to have some problems in her family to end up having to live with Grandma. And Grandma was gracious enough to take her in. And she ends up being repaid in a horrible fashion. But the thing is they thought that they were ready to be adults. And if you read the messages, they had a lot of hatred towards her. And they sort of fed each other. They fed the monster, and they went after her. But if you also look at their messages, and you look at the videos, they had access to all that stuff before this ever happened. And they did. They had access to the guns. Why else would there be a gun behind a couch? It wasn't in the safe. It was out. They had access to the codes. And they could say, well, it was on a piece of paper, in a dresser or whatever, but they had access to that. They did from the word go. There's a text, if you'll remember, or an Instagram message where they refer to, about basically the fact that, Grandma hasn't tried to tighten up the money thing yet. That she was still being very free with them with the money. I'm not asking y'all to find my client not guilty. I mean, I'm not asking you to do that at all. What I'm asking you to do is look at the facts. And I understand where they're coming from with the robbery and all that other stuff, but they actually did have access to all that stuff. They did all along. And they didn't kill her to take her stuff. And they didn't. The reason they killed her is because they were, in all honesty, they were incredibly naive. And they were also, if you remember, they were also using meth. And that has a tendency of doing very bad things to your brain. It's not an excuse, but it does bad things to your brain. But they weren't killing her to rob her. They were killing her because they wanted to be adults. And think in terms of what Tara said when they were talking about, because they were talking about killing her. There's messages all over the place. Y'all saw them, I saw them. They were all there. But what did Tara say was one of the things that she wanted to take with her? Her stuffed animals. She wanted to take her stuffed animals. What did she not take with her? Her stuffed animals. She realized very quickly, as they both did, they were not prepared for this life. They couldn't drive. They didn't have jobs. They had nowhere to live. They had to depend on other people to come get them. They depend on other people to get rid of stuff. They made a decision that not only ended one life, but effectively ended three, because they were not prepared for the situation that they put themselves into.